This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
Ready.
Are you destined for global impact and financial sovereignty by becoming a certified life coach? Well, Renee Marcoux's iHeart Academy, accelerated life coaching certification program, and business training will help you get there. This is a 6-month immersion program where you'll learn signature strategies to create a life you're in love with. Plus, you'll learn unique holistic coaching methods so you can get your clients' results fast. It's time for you to break free from corporate servitude and stop trading your precious time for money. At the iHeart Academy Life Coaching Program, you'll trailblaze with the top purpose-driven coaches in the Coaches Lounge and quantum leap past any limitations that are currently holding you back. By the end of this program, you'll not only have deeper knowledge to create a booming life coaching business, but you'll be able to take your coaching expertise to a whole new level. Take the first step towards becoming a confident, embodied, impactful life coach with this fun, interactive program, Renee Marcoux's iHeart Academy Life Coaching Certification Program. Click on the link below now. Hey, this is it. You found it. This is the podcast, World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment. The show whose mission it is to bring the best teachers, authors, and inspiring personalities to help you understand why now, more than ever, the people of the world are awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening. Now, before we head off to meet today's featured guests, please take a moment to click that all-important subscribe button below to help the show keep on a successful pathway. Thank you. Now, today we meet Natasha Senkovich, a manifesting coach, performing artist, filmmaker, intuitive tarot reader, theta healing and pranic healing practitioner who helps entrepreneurs, healers, and artists to achieve success, reach their goals, and live life on their own terms. So welcome, Natasha. Love to have you on the show. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Carl. This is so exciting for me.
Well, and too, we talked about this earlier. We were kind of turning the tables. You were kind enough to have me on one of your video summits a few months ago, and it was so much fun. I got to know you some and how talented you are. But this show is all about you and what you do. And I have to say, I've read all these things, and you're an expert in all these beautiful healing and energy modalities, but I didn't know that you were a performing artist. Were you a singer, an actor, a musician? I think I read you're a belly dancer and a filmmaker too. Is that all?
Yeah, and I'm kind of a dabbler, right? I lived in Los Angeles for a very long time. I moved since recently, a couple of years ago, but one of the things that's been really foremost in my life has been belly dancing. And I've been a professional belly dancer for decades. I've even, as a filmmaker, and this is not I made a documentary that won awards, and again, on a subject close to my heart, belly dancing. And this was entirely shot in Egypt. Mm-hmm. And this was actually the reason I talk about it or mention it, because it was a manifestation, right? Belly dancing was kind of, I manifested being hired for a professional, as an instructor, as a star instructor in a professional video shoot. When it was all about those instructional DVDs, people were teaching aerobics, people were teaching this, and a company, actually Natural Journeys, hired me. But this didn't happen, because I'm just the best belly dancer on the planet. This happened because it was a consistent effort in manifesting and attracting that opportunity, right? And then again, I did the same process for creating uh, the documentary and being able to, with someone with absolutely no experience in filmmaking, right? This is not like, oh, but I went to film school and I had this whole support system. No, zero, right? But again, with focus, with belief, with taking the steps, you can pull it out of thin air and get guidance, on everything.
So,
So, yes.
well, I was just a question. You talk about manifestation. When you were at that point in creating, living in LA and becoming a professional belly dancer and wanting to do a documentary, did you know anything about the law of attraction and how manifesting worked?
Very basic. I mean, like everybody, I watched The Secret, um, heard here like little things here and there, so I knew just, like at that time we all had access to sort of partial information, do this and visualize or do affirmations and blah blah blah, sustain this, level of energy. I was never really that great at sustaining a high vibe at that time. It didn't quite click with me, but I knew how to do affirmations. I knew how to act as if. So, for example, uh, prior to booking that role in that instructional DVD, which was like my first big, validation confirmation of like, oh my God, this works. I took certain steps, right? I uh, went to Sundance with a friend of mine, found, with absolutely no reason to do so. It was just a big expenditure vacation for us. It's like I didn't have any interviews. I didn't, I wasn't cast in any independent films. I didn't have a reason to go there. I just went there to hang out, be in that space, found a manager there that ended up introducing me to some people. Then I shot a trailer again out of my own pocket. I was like, I want to shoot a trailer where I'm promoting myself as like the next like belly dance, instructor or star, or so I just hired people out of my own pocket, found a location again using certain laws of attraction. At that time, I did have a coach that helped guide me through that. Because I had issues with negative thinking for a long time. So got that booked, shot this beautiful trailer by a very professional director of photography, and put it out there, showed a bunch of people, and then suddenly from a completely unconnected source, it wasn't someone who even saw my trailer, but a friend who saw the trailer, who was working at some studio and met somebody else through like this random sequence of events. Suddenly a director, a very well-known, strong director of instructional DVDs, contacted me out of the blue because they heard about me through person XYZ, who saw the trailer, one of them did, and cast me for this role, which was well paid, extremely well promoted, put me in, and it gave me, most importantly, the confidence. I was like, oh my God, So then that put me, so it's like a little series of steps. So that like, okay, so this is possible. And what do I want to do next? So then, the next thing on the staircase was like, I want to go bigger. I think it's possible for me to do a documentary, this whole compilation, because I found the nuances and the contradictions of belly dancing so fascinating after visiting Egypt for the first time. Because it didn't make sense to me. I was like, well, you see belly dancers in movies and people hire them for their most important events like weddings. But then at the same time, like there's almost a contempt for any women that are like performing on stage, right? Especially as dancers. It's almost like, well, we can't tell if they're prostitutes or belly dancers. Like that's kind of like it's a very weird thing, kind of almost a contradictory mindset. So I was like, I don't get this. And I felt like it was a very compelling theme material for a movie or a documentary. So I just like, again, jumped into it, doing my, acting as if, contacting people, meeting, hiring, it was, and it was a difficult process. I can't tell you it was an easy one, right? Because we can only attract at the level that we vibrate. And I still had a lot of blocks, still a lot of negative beliefs I was contending with. In my mind, I believed everything had to be hard, but it was done. And again, it put me to a different level of energy. I don't know, does that kind of answer the question a little bit of
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And what's the name of the documentary, and is it still available anywhere to view?
Yes, it's called Belly Dancers of Cairo. Um, it is, I think it's on Amazon, maybe. It was on Netflix for a little while because I did have it distributed by a company. Um, but I pulled it off of Netflix because of, just terrible terms.
Mm.
And, at that time. And now it's available through, I think it's for Datura Online. It's like a belly dance kind of a streaming website. And I have to get on this. I'm going to make it available through my own site so people can purchase and view soon.
Well, you're probably the only belly dancing life coach I know. I love it. Do you still occasionally dance?
I haven't since I moved to Texas. I used to a lot. I mean, up to even I did one last year. I did a gig last year. It was a party where, I danced at. I will start again. I just haven't because all the gigs have been so far. Like people are still contacting me for
Yeah.
gigs, but it's like I don't want to drive an hour and a half and be stiff, and then somebody expects me to jump out, and do dance. So I have to kind of work that out.
Well, still pursuing that line. So, from what I read, basically you were for a long time the personification of a struggling artist trying to get that big break to the next level of
Yeah.
success. So, when the break came, but it didn't translate into financial success, what happened?
Yeah, again, I had these crappy beliefs. I and I didn't really look at them, because I was just sort of thinking I just got to keep putting my a focus outward, and if I just keep pushing, if I just keep pushing and bulldozing forward, it's going to happen, and it does, right, eventually, but through, like you're going to get really mixed results, and so my downfall was I didn't deal with negative beliefs of scarcity, um, of negativity. I mean, I had all sorts of stuff going on. And so every time I would put out the successful thing, I didn't know how to build on it. I even managed to take all the money away from myself, right?
Mm.
So everything I'd built up, like, oh, so I got this big check for the documentary, or I got this big check in sales of this thing. Um, Again, somehow I would lose it all. Like it would just go through my fingers. Like I got sued. I made really bad investments, like really bad choices. I overspent. I didn't stick to any kind of smart budget, even when creating the products. It was like one catastrophe after another. So I would end up inevitably like at a negative almost with debts and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, that's what happened.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of people can relate to your experience right there. We get some money and then where to go? you
I
know,
know.
I had a good time, so they told me. You know,
Yeah, I know. It's so sneaky, because sometimes it can make sense. You can track the cause of like, okay, so I see what happened. I freaked myself out having all this extra money that's totally out of my comfort zone, right? Because whatever reason you're kind of operating on a belief that you always break even, or people that have too much money get in trouble, or people will go after me if I, so all these things that are just operating, these little systems operating in the background. So sometimes you can even track it to something that you did, like, okay, so I see how I went a little nuts and I overspent, or I bought a car, like I, got this big thing and I bought this vehicle that I really couldn't afford, and I didn't realize that like a fancy car takes, more gas, more maintenance, more expense. Or like myself, I bought this condo at the top of the market in LA that I couldn't really afford the payments. Then when the market dropped, things ballooned. You know what I mean? Like all these things you can say, yeah, that was a bad decision. With a little bit more insight or due diligence, maybe I would have made a different decisions. However, what people don't realize is a lot of these blocks manifest in like that you think that you're just a victim of just bad luck. Like, oh, I got all this extra money and now my car broke down. Or, and you think, well, that was just unfortunate thing. But no, we have like a lot of power than we realize. You in your your persistent belief, right, as you radiated out that frequency, you're responsible for that car breaking down. You were just so deeply uncomfortable with having that extra money, right? Like,
Well, and two, what you and I both teach in our spiritual studies, we've come to understand there are no accidents, no coincidences, and everything is projected by us from our subconscious paradigms. And of course, most of our limiting beliefs have been hammered into us by, the egoic-driven society, lack, attack, judgment, that type of thing. But your story is interesting. But was there a specific moment where the light bulb went off and you were able to turn the corner and move toward the success that you had imagined and where you now resonate?
I'm trying to think, Carl, I don't think so.
It was
I don't think that there was,
involved.
well, actually there was one. There was one moment that like was more of a stronger push forward than the others because it was very gradual for me. It was for me, I'm trying to think like how do I not go into this long because I could just go on and on about it. It's such an exciting subject, right? It has such a rich subject. But it started with my diving into energy healing, studying energy healing, right? Because I had a limited conception and understanding of manifesting work. I was looking at it from a purely like, how do I get from point A to point B? Point B looked like, beautiful home, more money, more freedom, all that stuff. So as most people, right, that was my carrot. Most people were not like looking at spiritual expansion. We're looking like, how do I get my creature comforts? How do I keep myself safe? How do I live more comfortably? So that was my goal. And that was how I was looking at manifesting work. I want to get, more exposure. I want to get I want to get more money. Then after I started diving into healing work, started with taking a theta healing sort of, workshop and got certified as a theta healer. I started having different like understanding of the process behind the scenes. Like, oh, okay, so somehow, you know what I mean? I'm creating this. It still didn't really settle because even though you're downloading the information, you're still in your auric field. You're still burdened with certain blocks. And when you see them energetically, right, it's almost like a gray film, and some of it has been created and fed by us. We've been imprinted by wherever we came from, our parents or our culture, wherever, like, and so it's a lot of times it's hard to see. It's almost like you're trying to look through kind of a little bit of a dirty window and you're trying to figure out, and okay, so manifesting, I can't really understand what's going on really, or I'm not downloading insights, really clearly. So after taking pranic healing, which was quite a journey for me, and I learned, through the process of healing, I learned about karma, I learned about the importance of forgiveness, I learned about the importance of good deeds, like putting credits into your own karma bank and generosity. I learned about the need to clean before you try to download or push in any new knowledge or new data or new energy. And then it was gradual through the process of healing others, through the process of doing certain meditations or having other healers work on me. It was almost like someone slowly was cleaning the window. Mm-hmm. I was like, it was like, oh, okay. So then I was able to understand or have a greater grasp of the whole picture. And at that point, your manifestations have so much more power because number one, you built up your karmic bank, because karma is such an overused word, but it's really your bank of, like, it's your fuel for being able to manifest and attract what you want. Mm-hmm. Easier, quicker, pops into your reality faster. Number two, of course, like your energy field, once it's free of all the debris and the junk, you expand your energy field. So you're no longer kind of contained and kind of occupied and kept in that hamster wheel with your own repetitive thoughts and crap. Suddenly you're like stronger. So what you call in, your frequency shoots out to pull it in faster, right? So all these things happen. So when I did that. And then at one point I focused, I did the manifesting work because I decided I have all the knowledge, all the ability. I'm now really going to go after building my coaching practice. This is what I want. So I went with great clarity, great focus, with all the knowledge I had at that point in time. And I did workshops. First, I mean, it's you still have to take action in the physical world, right? So I did workshops. I did in-person workshops. I just called a bunch of yoga studios, metaphysical bookshops. I asked them, "Can you help me promote?" And or however, like some people I just paid a fee and taught. Some people it was a collaboration, but I taught workshops on my subject. Then I did an online event, similar to what you participated in with me. Built up my audience, and then again did some prayer, did some good karma, donating, focusing, and I was able to build a coaching practice, right? And then suddenly when people started saying yes, right, when I was like, oh goodness, this is possible, this wasn't possible for me a couple of years ago when I was efforting and pushing and all that stuff, it was like a light bulb when I was like, oh my goodness, this happened, right? Like this is what, and I had so much joy with it, right? Like I love the coaching. Yes.
You really blossomed into, your life's purpose. And I love that analogy of looking through a dirty window. It takes a little more than Windex to clean it.
Yes.
But I do want to ask you, because I did read this about you. Evidently, a big event was an unfortunate event in your life was when your older sister was diagnosed cancer, which motivated you to learn some of these energy healing modalities, right?
Yes, that is true. I didn't mention that, but that is true because I did the theta healing. And then I was not probably going to go further with energy healing. I've always been a tarot card reader and intuitive reader, and I enjoyed that very much. So I thought, okay, I'm good with what I've got. My toolbox is, the theta healing is kind of interesting, and the readings, and I was teaching tarot classes. When my sister got ill, and it was a very aggressive, this was not like one of those cancers. Is that your kitty cat coming to say hi?
Yeah, she's playing with a paper bag here. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Maybe bring. They always bless they bless any kind of interview, right? When they come, the critters. But yeah, when she got very sick, and again, like I said, this was like a 4th-stage glioblastoma, which is probably the nastiest ever. We exhausted every other option, and then we were kind of like, we got no other options. Things are not looking good. So I started researching what energy healing modality, what alternative modalities are out there that actually have a track record of making a difference with cancer patients, like removing cancer cells. Because I'm like, I just don't have the time. I just didn't have the time to go through this big journey of trying this and trying that. I was like, we need to go for what works. So I found pranic healing because there was actually a university study called Joe Jones or something, I believe. I can give you the link if you would like, but there was a proper study conducted by UC Irvine students or academics, and they actually worked with petri dishes and had a certain number of students do the cleaning and then the destruction of the cancer cells, and they showed results, like significant, noticeable results, in a controlled study. So I was like, okay, I was very encouraged by reading that study, and I dove right in, right? There were some workshops being offered. There was an investment in those workshops. This is not like a casual investment, right? You had to really get in there and write a big check, so to speak. And I would never have done that. And I'm mentioning this, I mean, to me, it was worth every penny, but I would never have done that if I didn't have such a strong motivator of what was happening with my sister. Mm-hmm. So I went full on, dove into the workshop, took another course, took all the courses I could get my hands on. And one of the reasons I kind of dove in and so ardently was because I wanted to meet people that were professionals. I wanted to help recruit other healers that would be able to help me with my sister, because I knew even if I got all the workshops, I'm still fairly new in this modality. I started volunteering at the chronic healing free clinics in Los Angeles to donate my time to again learn. And I really did. They welcomed me. It's a wonderful community. They helped me as much as they could, right? To heal, to help with my sister. I like to think that we gave her relief, gave her some time. Unfortunately, it was such an advanced, terrible, terrible disease, and for whatever reason, it was her path that we lost her. You know.
Well, you're a good sister, that is for sure. So, well, and which leads me to ask you this question: what exactly is theta healing? What is pranic healing? I mean, seems to me theta is a brainwave associated with hypnosis, right?
It's like a so we go to the theta brainwave. When you access a certain brainwave, it's like it's kind of in meditation, a visualization. You go high to what we identify or call the seventh plane, and we go into a theta brainwave, right? And before working with people, I do my best to put them into a meditative state as much as possible as well. That's why a lot of times I have actually groups I do, and it's kind of funny. A lot of times after we do our session, I'm like, anybody have any questions? And everyone's like, totally.
You're supposed to bring them on.
Yeah, they're exhausted, right? Because the theta brainwave is so relaxing. It's like the deepest sleep, right? It's where we're the most suggestible. But to theta healers, it's like the field of creation where you can actually command a shift or a change and experience its, the healing, the change. What's amazing with theta healing is through that modality, I'm actually able to see the energy of the person. Like I actually witness, because in quantum physics or quantum mechanics, we understand that reality is very subjective, and it's sealed in our reality by the witnessing of someone. So one of the jobs or the part of the process of the theta healer is not only to command the change after accessing that seventh plane or the theta brainwave, but also to witness the change, seal the deal, so to speak. But this it's tricky. So for example, I'll give you an example. So a lot of people come with money blocks because people notice after a time, like, no matter what I do, I'm capping at this income. This seems to be my comfort zone. So I can work harder, less, and I always kind of level out at this amount monthly or annually. And then they notice it, like, this is a pattern, and I think that's something I could work with that. So let's say I go in and I command the increase of that income, or I first, there's a process. First, you remove the block before you can download something fresh. And then usually when I'm downloading it, it's really interesting. I see, like, a lot of times that people are not ready to accept it. They might say, oh yeah, Natasha, I'm here. I'm ready. Let's load it up. And then I go in to witness it, and they're in a fetal position, or they have like energetically walls around them, and they're scared. So for whatever reason, their nervous system is lined up to think that increasing their money is unsafe. And if they don't feel safe, and then we got to dig. Okay, so why do you feel unsafe? What does it represent? Sometimes it's like the belief that, they watched their father work himself to death, right? They watched their father like work long hours, and they were able to get nice things. And then he had a heart attack or died at 50, right? So that to a child was like, oh no, and that block is imprinted, and maybe he can grow up, this individual could grow up and completely forget consciously, but that block is still running the show. So when I witness, then we start digging, okay, what is exactly going on? So then we have to kind of get and uproot that block to be able to download something and have it really absorb and take. I don't know, does that kind of make sense? That's like kind of theta healing in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's really, I really you dug down deep, and I could see that. Yeah, exactly. So many people identify uh, as themselves those limiting financial beliefs, and that's why they're probably afraid to give it. They're actually afraid they're going to lose their identity, and yet they've come to you because they want to get rid of it.
Right. They're like, I don't want to live like this anymore. This sucks, right? Um, yeah, it's a fascinating journey, and I've got to tell you, I really enjoy it. I'm a very nosy person, curious person. I like to kind of see how things tinker,
Mm-hmm.
and people are fascinating, right? So I do enjoy the process. This is not like, oh God, here's another person with, because I've come with such block infested state, right? Like that. It's just fascinating to me. And then I see some people, we download and they experience a boost. Like I'll give you another example. This is also really interesting. One of the members in my community, so she worked with me privately for a little while to try to extract, again, like some financial blocks because she got kind of stuck. So we worked and we found we hit a trauma with there was a grief. Her son had passed, from an accident, but this was years and years prior, but it was still very, very painful. And we had to really, so it wasn't really about the money somehow. It was like this trauma that was very paralyzing, and part of her just didn't want to expand, didn't want to go on, so we had to extract and work and heal. And then, we kind of were complete or reached a certain point. And then this was last year, just before the summer, and her husband tend to go on vacations. They have an RV and they enjoy sort of, taking their dog, and they go off to the coast of Oregon and stuff like that. So then she just sort of paused the whole thing, started enjoying her vacation. She came back to work towards the fall, close to the fall, and suddenly experienced this huge financial boom.
Mm.
An increase in, in money and life, life affirming activities, optimism, all that stuff started sort of pouring in. And she called me and she says, "Oh my God, this is like awesome." So she actually unconsciously followed a certain process, like follow the formula. She recognized through the work, the problem, like I don't want this, had the courage to dig deep, even though, nobody wants to go back and deal with traumas, especially if somebody, a loss this traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
And then she detached. Then she was just like, well, okay, I'm going to let it go and just trust and enjoy, right? She went into this like sun and fun kind of a phase. And then it was almost like that opened up, the channel, and that abundance was free to, come in, and she experienced what she wanted. Right. So, however, the interesting thing is there's still work to be done because she kind of plateaued. Then she was like, "This is great. I'm da 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 da. And why did all this money come in before the end of the year? Now I'm going to have to report in my taxes." And I'm like, well, this is still not a bad problem to have. And we were joking about it. I was like, that's awesome. Then come again next year, she plateaued and kind of dipped again.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So people can default back.
Yes.
Right. So the process is fascinating and very, very individual. And the reason I'm communicating this, because I don't want to tell people or give them the image like, oh yeah, you just call me or another theta healer. We do, 60 minutes and you're done. You're going to start, your bank account is going to start like pouring in money, right? Because I don't want to give people that impression, because it's a very unique journey for everyone, right? It's sometimes there's something hidden underneath that, and you have to work through the comfort. You have to commit to the process. Sometimes, you have to, maybe you're too tense, right? You have to like work and then, but still detach, not like be in a kind of a stressed out state. Well, I did the work. Where's my money? Kind of a, right? You have to kind of let it go too and allow. And then sometimes there's more layers of the onion to be peeled, because the source doesn't want us to just get what we want and then go back to, playing tennis and shopping for Versace, right? The source wants us to experience our expansion, the spiritual expansion. So and that's another reason, right? If you kind of like, okay, thanks, and then you go back to what you're doing before, exactly how you're doing before, the source will squeeze you again. So you go back to your spiritual work, get back on the path. So There's a lot of different reasons. Yes.
So what is pranic healing? Is it different from theta healing?
There is a difference. There is a difference. And I love both of these modalities. It's like looking almost at something very similar, but you use a different lens, right? So pranic healing works on, how do I explain this? So they recognize the chakra system of the body and the auric field of the body. And they recognize that all like diseases and imbalances, right, are actually out of, self-created a lot of times, by thought forms that we create and pump energy into, and they obstruct and cloud our auric field. And then certain chakras sometimes either get infested by elementals and little bugs, right? They can be bugs of actual conditions like alcoholism, smoking, phobias, all these things that perpetuate problems. Or they can be congestion. So I'm trying to think. It's going to be clear to people if I give a specific example than if I'm like, because it's like, Okay, so I'll give you my example. So one of the things that I struggle with is like sinus congestion, right? Like I get clogged nose, sometimes it's hard for me to sleep. And I had to work through a pranic healing protocol to heal myself, right? So what the pranic healers look at that, right? The causes of sinusitis is they look at that your front solar plexus gets congested. Solar plexus gets congested when someone is in fight or flight, stress, has some ongoing chronic worries, right? You feel like somehow you have to protect yourself from, dangers or threats, real or unreal, or imaginary. And then it starts getting congested and it starts getting big. So after that happens, it starts to affect certain organs or certain systems in the body, right? Like if it goes on, depending on the acuteness of the disorder. So depending on where you're genetically predisposed, it's going to get you. So with certain people, right, when the front solar plexus gets super congested, the congestion gets shared with back solar plexus, which connected to the back. Like there's a connection between the two, and then you start to get like a nice hard layer in the back energy point. So with certain people, it manifests as gnarly migraines, right? Because that back gets congested. It goes up the spine. Their upper back, upper back muscles gets tight, it rocks. It starts to put pressure and congest and starts to expand and contract the veins and the vessels in the head. And then you get this terrible migraine. So that's one symptom of terrible overcongestion. It's again, the root is anxiety, the root is chronic worries, the root is pressure. Another person like myself, it can go, the solar plexus congestion gets connected to your ajna, this chakra between the eyebrows, which starts pulsating and starts putting pressure and affecting the sinus cavities. Mm-hmm. Right? So there's a protocol that always starts with cleaning the solar plexus, cleaning the back solar plexus, cleaning the liver, right? You almost immediately feel a relief with any condition, just cleaning those three, and putting fresh prana in there. And then you go to the actual symptom, which is like the headache or this, and clean the head or the sinus area. Does that kind of make sense? So the pranic healing has a lot of different functions, but they work on cleaning dirty energy and replacing it with fresh prana.
Much of what you said resonates with many of what I would call quantum energy healers, or just energy healers. They clear out the blockages in the chakras, and of course, as I've learned through many of my shows and talking one-on-one with people, when you do have blockages in your chakras, that can manifest, like you said, into physical maladies. And that's really interesting. Wow.
Oh, it's fascinating. And it works. I even tried it on, like, my younger sister suffers from migraines. And there's one time she couldn't do anything. She usually takes some muscle relaxant, it helps, or she takes this, or nothing was helping. And she called me, right? Because my family members don't really, they're kind of like, well, we have to be desperate to try to go for this sort of weird stuff. And I worked on her, and it was a good hour because in pranic healing we sense, I can see where is super congested, where is depleted, and I could saw like huge congestion in the back, upper back. So all that had to be cleaned. And she actually, after 1 hour of work, she was like, "Oh my God!" I mean, she was a little tired because I relaxed her muscles so much, but she says the pain's gone. So it really does, working on the energy body really does translate to healing the physical body.
Am I wrong in this, or is it true that women tend to get migraines more than men?
I think so. I think it is a more of I'm not sure why. I'm sure somebody out there knows the reason for that or the actual statistics, but
Maybe women carry their stress a little bit differently than guys.
probably.
Guys just, have a beer or go punch somebody.
Sometimes that works, not the punching.
Yeah, none of it
Unless it's a punching bag, or nice,
Well, too, you say that people can connect with and get answers from their own higher guides. How can a person go about doing that? And why would they want to connect with their higher guide?
Oh gosh, this is a big thing. It's so many reasons. I mean, how do I even? So let's say that you're only relying on news sources to give you information, what to do, what moves to make, what not to make, your neighbors, some YouTube experts. And I'm not saying some of these sources might be accurate, but the problem is we're all very individual people. What's correct for me to do, whether to prepare for financial disaster, what kind of food to choose and eat or not to eat, can be completely different for someone else, because I live right now in, by Austin in Texas, right? So what I eat, where I go, how I handle my money is going to be totally different than someone who's living in India right now, right? Or Australia or Europe, right? Totally different circumstances, totally different situation. So what's correct for me, my decisions is going to be totally different from someone else. So, but we all have access like to similar news and similar, stuff. So the only thing you need to really do to be able to be guided correctly, what's appropriate for you, is connecting to your higher guidance, right? That is your surefire way. And I've heard of people that ignored it. I mean, I've heard of someone's husband who kept getting the signal to sell his stocks, and it always come very gently, sell your stock, and he was like, yeah, this is crap. I got to hold, everyone's saying I got to hold. And then it crashed. The stock market crashed. He lost a bunch of money, and then he was kicking himself. So listen, that little voice knows more than all those random people, just always, specifically for you. And again, your guidance might be different from your neighbor even. So now we establish how valuable, important is. Why is it important? So how do you get, more tuned to it? I find the number one way is to start building a stronger relationship with your guides, with your angels. In my opinion, and I've heard this from different sources and I felt it, this is the time where we have a lot more help, hands-on help from the divine than we've had when things are easy peasy, right? Because things are under pressure right now. There's big changes coming. There's a lot of people are experiencing shifts. So of course, because this reality works on cause and effect and dualities, we're going to also have extra help to compensate for those challenges and squeezes. And anybody that's not calling to their guides or angels and asking them for guidance daily, this is not like a one and done. This is not like, I asked last year when I was visiting the sacred place and then I forgot about it. No. This is a daily, because you're building a relationship And I would suggest to start small. If you're not someone who's already, habituated in this practice, start small. How I started was I would just ask for help with lost objects.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would say, "Hey, I can't find this," or "This is," or "Help me with this." Something that doesn't have a lot of charge or consequence to it, and then just ask for help, and then wait, and then see if you can relax your mind. Again, it's hard to receive when you're like in this spasm, um, and it will come to you, and then you're going to start to build. Oh, wow, they did help me, right? Start to build an acknowledgement, confidence. I strongly suggest for your own benefit. They do it without any need for compensation, obviously, but you still to build your own gratitude muscle. Thank them, acknowledge. Yes, I see that this, was you interfering or helping me. Thank you so much. Um, I even had a friend, this happened last week, because I tell everybody about this, right? Like all my friends, like, did you ask your angels, right? Like I'm always encouraging people. She's a chef, and she was driving to a gig in LA, going through Topanga Canyon, which has very spotty Wi-Fi, if you're familiar with Los Angeles. And suddenly, and she was looking at her navigator trying to get to this gig. This was like early in the morning. Her phone dropped. She was trying to drive through the canyon and grab, like, oh my God, where's the phone? Press something, and she started her updates. So if you have an iPhone and you start your updates, that's sometimes like 45 minutes to 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So she saw it, was like, oh my God, because the phone, it's almost irreversible, right? We're updating. So she was like, what am I going to do? Then she remembered, ask my angels. She said, angels, please. And really meant it, really had a lot of charge behind the request. You must help me. I don't know what I'm going to do. Within 5 minutes, the updates completed, and she was able to access her navigator again.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right? It is amazing. It's just, there's no reason, there's no downside. Ask your angels. If you're wanting to build your intuitive sense, ask your angels every day to help clean the space, help connect you to your higher self, for them to give you information. If you want your higher guidance or your intuition to be stronger because you want to be able to make the right moves in this economy, ask for that specifically for you, for me and my family. Can you give me heads up, right?
I think for myself, over the last few years, I've finally started tuning into my listening to my guides, and I realized that it's on a moment to moment basis. I mean, I can't tell you how many times this happened. I'll start to leave and go, and it's almost like somebody tapped on my shoulder. Hey, dummy, you forgot this. And
yes,
even when I'm driving, I used to get really frustrated and ticked off when a slow driver would get in front of me and I'm trying to get somewhere. And almost every time now when there's a slow driver in front of me and it's like tap, tap, tap. Hey, you don't understand. That's an angel in front of you slowing you down so you don't get in a wreck up here. I go, oh, okay. Thank you, angel.
it's true.
You can actually tune into them on a moment to moment basis. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so amazingly helpful. The only thing is, like you said, be humble. It's not one of those things where you have to almost give up a little bit of, because it's not always going to look like, they'll get you to point B, but it's not always going to look like how you expect. You might, so you've got to be a little flexible. You can't be like, how angels I asked for,
And always thank them. Always thank them. Yeah.
Always thank them. Yes.
So I'm curious too, and I've had a lot of intuitives on here, and you say you're an intuitive. What exactly is an intuitive?
What exactly is an intuitive? So I think that there's different people with different levels. So intuitive would be someone who receives intuitive information, right? It receives from a source or sense that's not our typical five senses. Right? Like, so there's information that's not explained by our typical, like, oh, somebody told me, or I saw it, or, like how we expect to receive it. The reason I include that in my description is because I pull on that information to help my clients, right? So when I work with someone, one of the services I do is I use a medium, right? I do love tarot cards, and I think they're rich in spiritual symbology and worth studying just on their own, actually, because I've done some studies on it. They blow me away every time. Um, but it's a medium to allow your intuition to speak. Sometimes, like, and some questions are easier than others, right? Like to compare and contrast, like, um, and then also the other way I look, I use again, under the definition of intuition, I actually use the modality of theta to access information that's not obvious. Like for example, sometimes I get on the phone or on Zoom with a client, and they're telling me one thing, but I'm feeling a sense, right? Like it's something else or something is behind that. And I'll say, oh, do I have your permission to look at your energy? And then I'll be able to intuitively look and see, okay, so this is what this person is feeling. So because I do that, I built a practice over that over years. And through different ways of asking my angels to help me. I mean, before any session, whether it's just a straight up reading or within, I always say a prayer and ask the angels of wise counsel, of guidance, of intuitive, being able to download correctly information, be able to, because there's this, and tell me, I mean, I'm so excited to share this information that forgive me if I start kind of going, oh, blah, 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 oh, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully it'll make sense to people that, that are listening to this.
Great. Well, this is amazing. We are talking to Natasha Senkovich, just incredible intuitive, a pranic and theta healer, and a belly dancer on top of it. I love it. This is all great. So, one thing I do want to ask you, you and I are both law of attraction practitioners and coaches. What do you feel most people are missing in their understanding of the law of attraction?
It's my personal opinion that people identify still too strongly with their blocks and limitations. And because I find that again, I take it in 3 steps, or in several steps. So one would be the first thing I think that needs to happen before you taking on any manifestation or, like creating something, is you got to clean the dirt out first so you can receive it. So if you're still heavy with, like some grudges, you have some negative thoughts, like you don't have the awareness that you're running negative thoughts, you're grumpy, you're wondering why you go to, buy yourself a cappuccino or a coffee shop and I don't know why everyone's so rude and snappy, like you don't see that you're treating them a certain way, right? And you're getting that mirrored. And then you're like, well, what I really want is to make 6 figures. And I'm doing all the affirmations, right? Like, and I watch The Secret 10 times, and you haven't cleaned out, right? You haven't cleaned out all the junk. And you're wondering why you aren't able to like shift or attract and it's not able to land. You've got to look at the blocks first. Because I find if you do step 1, cleaning out the blocks, identifying the beliefs, clearing out things, you'll probably start to attract what you want quite naturally, because your thoughts are going to be positive, empowering. You're going to start to focus more naturally what you want as opposed to what you don't have. So you don't even need to do the extra rituals and the work of manifesting. You just stay with like, I'm just working on my energy hygiene. I'm just working on focusing on good things. I'm letting go of the negativities, right? You're already like 75% of the way there. And then the second step before you start the manifesting work, in my opinion, my definition of manifesting work is actually the visualizations, the putting energy into creating positive thought forms that are going to help you by roots of affirmations and all these things that people do, little tools. The second step is building that good karma bank. So what can you do to start like donating? What you do is so phenomenal. The power of 8, where you take your own time to gather these people and facilitate healings for someone who needs it. So you not only are you building up your good karma bank for you in doing this process, but all the people that are participating, giving their time, also have the ability to grow and evolve, right? So that's step number 2. I forgot what your exact question was.
Well, what are most people?
That's it. Yeah. So the most people, like, I think number one that they don't do is the really dig in and doing some major like self-assessment and then cleaning the junk, right? The blocks, the negative thinking. And number 2 is working on building the good karma, practicing forgiveness, practicing generosity, practicing, showing up for other people, donating money.
I think that most people have no idea how much crap they're carrying around in them. And if they, if you could go to an imaginary scale with all of this stuff on top of you, you'd probably weigh several tons. And when you energetically release it and clear out all those paradigms, I'm sure it feels like you're just floating, and it really does work that way. And everything that you said is all connected with the pranic and the theta healing and the energy clearing and learning how to utilize the law of attraction, facing all of those paradigms and releasing them. Wow, this is just amazing. And thank you so much, Natasha. This has been an incredible discussion. I would like to find out what is your website and how can people connect to you?
So it's natashasenkovich.net.
Okay.
Right? And they can find me there, and I put a lot of information. I do blog posts. I think you get my emails, and once I put something, first my email list gets it, and then I add it to my blog so people can read all my deep thoughts, going back months.
They are great. And I believe you've been holding some live Zoom sessions where you work on different things. Yeah.
I do have that. Yeah. I could probably put it in my blog post. I did a 3-day event where I did like doing major theta clearing blocks for the group. And then I did a pranic healing process for clearing traumas and phobias. And then I did the third one was building your intuitive skills, which was kind of more fun for people.
And you're just about to leave for Europe to go to Croatia.
Yes, I'm going.
What are you guys going to do on this spiritual retreat?
Oh, this trip, the one coming up, I'm leaving on Monday, is more for me. I'm going to just hang out and with my family and enjoy and stuff like that. I would like to take one to take people for a retreat late August and September to Croatia. If you're interested, but I'm still trying to see how many people would want to go. So if someone is interested, I will be documenting my trip, like even the airport stuff. So I know some people have emailed me with questions like, are there still restrictions? Or people I'm going to get harassed when I'm, trying to walk through, I don't know, Frankfurt or something. So I will document that for you.
Okay.
So people can see what they can expect and what's happening. And I can, and I think if you want to find me on Facebook or my page where I'll be documenting all of that will be Adventures in Spirit and Entrepreneurship, or you can always contact me and ask me, if you're like, I can't find this page, what is she talking about? Just contact me and say, can you give me a link? And I will.
Okay, Natasha Senkovich is Senkovich. Senkovich.
That's correct. Yeah.
And next time I have you, I'm going to have you belly dance for us.
Oh, no. No. You can see some old videos. I think I still have some stuff on YouTube, but that ain't going to happen, Carl.
Darn it, I tried. All right. Well, thank you so much, Natasha. You're doing some beautiful work in the world and bringing lots and lots and lots of needed light to the world.
You are so welcome. This is such a pleasure. It's just amazing how time flies. I felt like we just started talking a second ago, and I'm like, what? Can I just say one last thing? Because I'm with pranic healing. I kind of gave you the, like what pranic healing can do in terms of physical ailments, but I work with it on mental ailments, anxiety, phobias, traumas as well, because there is a protocol and this is amazing because I can actually go in to help people dissolve, disintegrate grief thought forms, and anxiety thought forms, so that are kind of like they infest the solar plexus a lot, and all those things, so that to give them support. The person has to be on board, right? It can't be like, they have to be like, yes, I'm going to work on my own but I'm going to make it a lot easier for them. And this is not just me. Any pranic healer can do this. And if you live in a bigger town, you can Google and see there's pranic healing free clinics too, that you can take advantage and just go in and try. And you might just really feel a blessing from that sort of a healing. So just anything you can do to just give yourself like a step up, a little bit more of a boost in feeling better, attracting what you want faster, and all that stuff. All right, that's all I needed to say.
Well, and everybody could use that. So thank you again, Natasha Senkovich. Namaste, my friend.
So grateful to you, Carla. Thank you.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified law of attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.